wondered what Peter's vision in Acts 10 really meant? For generations, believers from all walks, denominational and non-denominational religious systems, have read about Peter's rooftop vision and walked away with one assumption: God was declaring all food clean. What if Peter's vision wasn't about food, but about people? My book, called Peter's Vision, is a scripture-rooted study that re-examined this famous vision through the lens of the whole Bible. This isn't some theological deep dive. This is a witnessing tool, a bridge to understanding how the gospel opened to the nations. So whether you are Baptist, Pentecostal, Messianic, or somewhere in between, this book invites you to pause, reflect, and let the scripture interpret scripture. Discover the heart behind the vision. It's not about the menu. It is about the mission. So tap below and grab your copy on Amazon today.
If you're ready to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith, then grab your Bible and let's get started.
Shalom. Welcome back this Tuesday night for Torah Study. Now, there is a storm that's going on, so anytime that we get disconnected, just want to let you know that's probably the reason why. But I am so thankful for today. So let's jump right into things, because we are still in the book of Leviticus. And since we entered this book, we've been on a journey of discovering what it truly means to live a holy and set apart life before Yehovah. We've learned much about what he defines as holy, not according to denominational traditions, not according to Hebrew roots traditions or Messianic traditions or their perspective that does not line up with him. It has to be rooted into the word itself. Holiness is not ours to define. It is Yehovah's. Today, we move into a chapter that focuses on the priest, those who minister before Yehovah on behalf of the people, and the teachers of the people. This topic is especially relevant today. Why, you will ask? Because Yehovah's original invitation was for the entire nation of Israel to be a kingdom of priests. Now, that calling was narrowed after the defilement of the golden calf. However, through Yeshua, we have been restored to the first intent to be a priestly people once again, just like it was in the garden. So this reminds me of 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 through 10. I'm going to read that before you. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people of Elohim's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellence of him who has called you out of darkness into this marvelous light. For you once were not a people, but now you are the people of Elohim. You have not received mercy. You have not received mercy, but now you receive mercy. So it's important to understand that we are all now considered a royal priesthood. We also recognize that Yeshua has brought in that priesthood through Melchizedek. It is not under the order of Aaron's, because it's bloodline, but after the order of Melchizedek, a priesthood that's not, again, based on bloodline. That's where the Aaron priesthood came from. It's through the bloodline. But the Melchizedek priesthood, as we recognize, is about a calling. It's an obedience and righteousness. This priesthood is for those who respond to Yehovah's voice, following his instructions, recognize that his son is the door to his presence. This is why we're following the footsteps of the Messiah. This is why we do the teachings on Sabbath day, because we have to learn to understand how to follow the footsteps. Now, today, we're going into Leviticus chapter 21, where we're learning how the priests are called to walk a set apart, reverent, honoring the holiness of Yehovah in every area of our life. If we are to be a royal priesthood, then we must pay close attention to these instructions, because they reveal the standard of character, purity, in order to reflect the heart of the kingdom, the heart of the kingdom. Now, I must say that this does not exclude some things that we have learned through the time of us studying about how to live. But this brings us into a higher standard. For everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And to whom they entrusted much, of him they will ask all the more. Welcome to Reconcile of the Kingdom. We're working towards becoming in harmony of the whole word of truth. My name is Patrice Robinson, and I greatly appreciate every last one of you who's able to join me today live, and those who will be joining me on the replay. Now, take a look at your screen below and see if you have hit that subscribe button. I encourage you, if you have not hit that subscribe button, don't forget the thumbs up, so that you can join me live every Tuesday, every Saturday, and do not miss any biblical content that I share with you. And I must say that I'm greatly appreciated for all the return subscribers and the new subscribers who've already done that, because this is how we reach the nations about biblical doctrine and not the dogma of men. I also want to take a point out to welcome all visitors. This is your first time visiting. Thank you for dropping by today. But I'm inviting you to search the scriptures with an open heart, along with this family. Asking you to think about if you're willing to challenge the religious traditions that you have been taught for centuries. Embrace the call to be a lifetime student of the Bible, and that you're eagerly ready to explore the Hebrew of Christian faith. If this sounds like you're in the right place. So should you hit that subscribe button. Don't forget the bell. Now, I do have the Reconcile with the Kingdom handler, where you can find me on all the social media outlets. And which is Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, and YouTube podcasts. So you can find me in those areas. Now, I still didn't get myself, I'm trying to figure out how I got myself logged out of my Instagram and Facebook and how to get back in there. So I'm working on that, so don't stress out. But I'm encouraging you to join there. And Instagram is important because it helps us keep up with the calendar, the biblical calendar, which, by the way, we have already entered in the third biblical month. Those of you who follow me on Instagram, I received that message about maybe a week or two ago, around May 28th at sunset. You received that. That's the purpose of Instagram. And of course, to get us ready for the next feast, which is coming up here really soon. And of course, join me on Instagram for that information. And we have the Arcade Biblical Studio on Etsy that you can join, you can follow, you can get your workbooks and your worksheets. And of course, you've seen the introduction with Peter's Vision ebook that you can follow me and find that on Amazon. And of course, another way you can support the ministry is that Cash App link that is below. So if you brought the workbook for Leviticus, I appreciate you. I'm hoping you have that in front of you, or the worksheet, and that you have that, including your Bible, the pens, all the stuff that you need so you can take some notes. Now, don't want you to forget, at the end of today's teaching, I will be able to ask questions for all the things that's presented to you today. So bring in those questions, share the link, make comments, even if you disagree, We have to learn how to disagree and effectively disagree with respect. Now, we're going to go over the previous teaching, which was Leviticus chapter 20. I'm going to bring my sheet from my workbook. And so Leviticus chapter 20, the whole entire chapter is focusing on being holy, for Yehovah Elohim is holy, and it's the judgment and consequences from what we read in Leviticus chapter 19. So if you missed 19, you need to go back. If you missed 20, you need to go on the playlist and find those, because it is basically giving you the death penalty of specific instructions that you or anyone, myself, anyone who decide not to follow. So anyone who sacrifices a child to Molech must be put to death. And the community is to carry that punishment out. It's for the community to understand this is not allowed to offer your children to other gods with sacrifice. So prohibit to do child sacrifices. This is also, of course, against adultery. The community is supposed to be responsible for upholding this. And this is divine justice and holiness, although we may not like it, but this is the way it was meant in the kingdom of Israel. Now, the adulterer and the adulteress must be put to death. That is a judgment and consequence of adultery. This is where we covered, and I cross-referenced John chapter 8, verses 3-5. This is when the scribes and the Pharisees brings to Yeshua a woman who they claim they caught in adultery and bring her to Yeshua to pass judgment. Of course, we know what he did and why he did it. We covered that last week in 20. So if you missed it, you have to go watch that. Now, anyone who go to mediums or spiritists, speaking to the dead, anyone who practices being a medium or spiritist, the punishment is death. Sexual sins, again, adultery, incest, bestiality, and the same-sex engagement relations are all punishment to death. And of course, we finish off that chapter with making sure that the people understand the difference between clean and unclean animals. Because all of this about, if you don't follow the instructions, these specific instructions, now this means all of them at this point. This is just getting you to the beginning part. Again, remember I spoke about if there is a beginner's understanding of how to walk out the holiness, most definitely Leviticus chapter 19 and 20 will be a part of that. So there's more cross-reference. I had no word study that I shared at the moment of the teaching, which I always say that does not mean that you do not do your own word study. That's important as you are taking these teachings further than what I'm taking you, because there is a deeper level. My application, my insight. Yehovah affirms the importance of obedience to his statutes and his judgments. Israel is warned to keep all his laws and not to follow the customs of the nations that Yehovah is driving out before them. The nations are being removed because of their defilement, which is what we learned in this chapter 19 and 20. All these things that he's describing here is what the other nations are doing, which is why they're getting kicked out of the land. So why am I going to let you go into land and do the same thing as the people that I'm removing from the land? So that's an important part to remember. Now, I do have a recommended reading, which is from Mark chapter 7. I chose Mark 7 as recommended reading because of what you should teach about the truth of defilement. So let me read to you Mark 17 verses 15, and then 21 to 23. Just write that down because that's what I'm reading at this moment. But the entire chapter is your recommended reading. There is nothing outside a person that can defile him by going into him. Rather, it is what comes out of the person that defiles him. For from within, out of the heart of the people, come evil thoughts, sexual immoralities, thefts, murders, adulteries, greed, wickedness, deceit, indecent behavior, which is also called sexual morality if you look at other versions, envy, slander, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defiles a person. So, keep in Mark chapter 7, Leviticus 19, Leviticus 20. What's in our heart is what truly defiles us, not what we eat. This teaching aligns closely with the message of Leviticus chapter 20, where the focus is on judgment, consequences, and defilement. If you bring these two chapters together, and I also said 3, 19, 20, and Mark 7, together helps correct a common misunderstanding. Many believe Yeshua's teaching in Mark 7 is about food. Well, let me tell you why. Because if you go to Mark chapter 7, let me bring it up so I don't know if I can share this with you. Mark chapter 7. Yes, let's see. I'm going to try to share my screen. I don't know if it will allow me. Hopefully you can see it. In Mark chapter 7, verse 19, if you can see that parentheses, it says, thereby he declared all foods clean. That parentheses, along with that message, has been added into our scripture. So you can go and take a look at that at another time. But it's there because it's been interpreted. It's a misinterpretation, just as we talk about Peter's vision in Acts 10. The real message is missed. This is not about dietary laws. Yeshua is addressing spiritual uncleanness, not physical food. His point is clear. It is the inner condition of the heart that determines whether a person is clean or defiled before Yehovah. If Yehovah is clearly defining what is detestable and what is holy, as we are reading in these passages 19 and 20, I have 3 questions for you. Why do so many believers today define and tolerate the very things he condemned? This is in our questions. 2, have we redefined holiness to fit our comfort? Or are we living set apart by his standard? 3, how do I live in the light before dark and confused people? That is the 3 questions that we should be meditating on. I'm going to leave my sheet up for a moment to give you opportunity to ask questions about what's presented to you today. Leviticus chapter 21 is a short chapter, but I have plenty to say, so please bear with me. Verse 1, then Yehovah said to Moses, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, no one shall defile himself for a dead person among his people, except for his relatives who are nearest to him, his mother, his father, his son, his daughter, and his brother. Also for his virgin sister who is near to him, because she has not had a husband for her, he may defile himself. He should not defile himself as a relative by marriage among his people so as to profane himself. They should not shave any area of their heads bald, nor shave off the edges of their beards, nor make any cuts in their flesh. Now, we talked about this in Leviticus chapter 19, I do believe, maybe 20, about doing all this stuff for the dead. This is what the people of the nations did. Verse 6, they shall be holy to their Elohim and not profane the name of their Elohim, because they present the offering by fire to Yehovah, the food of their Elohim. Remember what they're offering. The offerings is food to Yehovah. So they shall be holy. They should not take a woman who is a prostitute and profane, nor shall they take a woman divorced from her husband, for he is holy to Elohim. You shall consecrate him, therefore, because he offers the food of your Elohim, he shall be holy to you. For I, Yehovah, who sanctify you, am holy. Also, your daughter of any priest, if he should profane himself by prostitute, she profanes her father, she shall be burned with fire. So I want to pause for a moment here as we are listening and we are hearing how the offerings are the food of Yehovah. Now we're talking about food, because if Yehovah is wanting to clean in the best animals for him, he will want the same thing for his people. Just keep that in mind. He is demonstrating what he wants for his people as he is teaching his people on how to be holy with him. Verse 10, the priest is the highest among his brothers, and whose head the anointed oil has been poured. That's the high priest that the scripture is referring to. And who has been consecrated to wear the garments, should not uncover his head, nor tear his clothes, nor shall he approach any dead person, nor defile himself even for his father or his mother. Remember, pause here. Remember when Aaron, when his sons died, he couldn't do any of this. That's how we connect the scriptures. Nor shall he leave the sanctuary, nor profane the sanctuary of his Elohim, for the consecration of the anointing oil of his Elohim is on him. I am Yehovah. He shall take a wife in her virginity, means a virgin for a wife, a widow or a divorced woman, or one who is profaned by prostitution. These he shall not take, but whether he is to marry a virgin of his own people, so that he will not profane his children among his people, for I am Yehovah who sanctified him. So that's a lot that we just read in passages 1 through 15 of Leviticus chapter 21, which outlines the regulations of the Kohen, the priests, especially the sons of Aaron, who will be the high priest. Kohans, the priestly bloodline, only goes through Aaron when it comes from the tribe of Levites. Now, this is concerning ritual purity, mourning practices, marriage, and family qualification for service. This passage emphasizes holiness as priests as set apart before Yehovah. Again, a priest must not defile themselves by touching a dead body, except for a close family, mother, father, son, daughter, brother, and a virgin sister. It's changing, isn't it? They must not make bald patches, cutting their beards, making cuts in their flesh for the dead. Remember, we talked about that. They're to be holy to Elohim and not profane his name, because they offer food, sacrifices, offerings to Yehovah. Now, when it comes to marriage, it's important. No prostitutes. A woman who has been defiled, A woman who's been divorced by her husband, they must marry a woman who is a virgin, preserving their holiness. The daughter of the priest who profanes herself through prostitution profanes her father and is to be burnt with fire. Verse 10 through 15 begins to talk about the high priest, not to uncover his head or tear his garments because he's in mourning. Cannot go near any dead body, not even his father or his mother. Must marry a virgin from among his people. Must not profane offspring among the people. The holiness of priests, Aaron and his sons are the ones who's chosen at this time that this is being written. But it also helps you understand that as a holy royal priesthood, there's still a set apart theme that we're recognizing that we should be following. Touching dead bodies make you unclean for 7 days. You go back into Numbers chapter 19, verses 11 through 13. Makes you unclean for 7 days. Deuteronomy 14:1 talks about not cutting yourself or shaving yourself and your heads and things for the dead. So, and you go into Ezekiel, you learn more about reinforcements of the priests to marry virgins. Malachi 2 and 7, the priests will preserve knowledge to be messengers of Yehovah. Now, I want to say this. Up from the moment that we're reading in Leviticus, learning about the priest's role, right? The priest's role, that they're the teachers for the people. Up until the kingdom has been split, the northern and the southern kingdom, there was mainly the priests, right? All the way until you get to Babylon. Out of Babylon, we begin to get all these denominations begin. Although the priests were there, remember, if you go to Ezra, the priests were there, we begin to have what we see in the New Testament, the Pharisees and all of those different denominations begin to come up. It's amazing how that happens after that. Now, as a priest royalhood, we're to come to one as a body of one, understanding the foundation of coming into one kingdom. It's never been two kingdoms for us. It's supposed to be coming into one kingdom, the house of Israel, and one bride. The problem is we still have multiple denominations who's leaning on their traditions to interpret the word. Just wanted to plant it up because we only have one high priest who is most definitely advocating for us. So this is a good time, if you have not, to hit that subscribe button. As I say, make sure that you are making sure you're helping me get out the biblical content of understanding the foundation of the word, so that you as an individual and those in the future will learn how to rightly divide the word and take the studies further. Verse 16, then Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron, saying, none of your descendants throughout their generation who has an impairment shall approach to offer the food of his Elohim. Pay attention to this. Those who have an impairment should not approach to offer the offerings to Elohim. For no one who has a impairment shall approach. A man who is blind, one who or one whose limps, or one who has a split nose, or one with any conspiracious features. or someone who has a broken foot, or a broken hand, or a contoured back, or one who is a dwarf, or has a spot in his eye, or festering rash, or scabs, or crushed testicles. No man among the descendants of Aaron, the priest who has an impairment, is to come forward to offer Yehovah's offerings by fire. Since he has an impairment, he should not come forward to offer the food of his Elohim. He may eat the food of his Elohim, both of the most holy and of the holy, only he should not come up to the veil and approach the altar, since he has an impairment. He doesn't approach the altar. Thank goodness we have Yeshua who's approaching the altar for us, so that he does not profane my sanctuaries. For I am Yehovah who sanctifies them. So Moses spoke to Aaron and to his sons, to all the sons of Israel. It's important to understand that this Torah, these instructions, are also known among the people. The people knows, fully aware of how the priests should behave and what they should be doing, because they are taught the word. It is read out loud during the feast time, and we will read Deuteronomy once you'll know more about that. So this section gives Yehovah's instructions regarding physical defects in the descendants of Aaron, especially those who serve as priests, emphasizing that perfection and holiness was required to approach the altar. So if you're blind, you lame, have disfigurement, deformity, crippled by hand or foot, you have a hunchback or dwarfism or eye defect, skin disease, or a eunuch, you are not to approach the altar. A priest with a defect may eat the holy and most holy food, but he may not enter again the veil or approach the altar. Because remember, the high priest have to go before the veil once a year. This passage that we have just read, I mean, it truly offers a lot of questions. It aligns that whole physical disqualification for Aaron priest to approach the altar and offering. So that's the altar in offering those sacrifices and the offerings is the restriction. Yehovah says that a priest with that defect can only eat the holy food, right? Now, many people would first think this is a very harsh thing, but this is not about the worth and value to cast you out as a priesthood, because you're still honored to partake into the holy things. Now, what is represented at the altar is no blemish, just like the animals. You would have to identify which has blemish and what has not. But this is also helping us to get prepared for the perfect high priest. None of us, I should say, who walk on this walk are perfect. So this is why Isaiah helps you understand that this is really not about a physical issue. If you study the Torah, the prophets, and the writings in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, you will really realize this is about the heart of the person. So if you go to Isaiah 56, verse 3-7, I'm going to read this. Let not the foreigner who has joined himself to Yehovah, say, Yehovah will certainly separate me from his people. Nor let the eunuch say, behold, I'm a dry tree. For this is what Yehovah says to the eunuch who keeps my Sabbaths and choose what pleases me and hold firmly to my covenant. To them I will give in my house and within my walls a memorial, a name better than that the sons of the daughters. I will give them an everlasting name which will not be eliminated. Also to the foreigners who join themselves to Yehovah, to attend his service and to love the name of Yehovah, to be his service, everyone who keeps the Sabbath so as not to profane it and holds firmly to my covenant, even those I will bring to my holy mountain and to make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings, their sacrifices will be acceptable at my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all the peoples. The entire Torah is about the heart of the person, because it is the humankind, that looks out at the outer appearance. 1 Samuel 16:7 says, man looks out at outward appearance, but Yehovah looks at the heart. These passages, this is a good time to send any questions, you might have them, reinforces the sacredness of Yehovah's presence and the requirements for those who are physically served in the tabernacle. While physical defects disqualify priests from certain duties, they were not cut off from fellowship or provision. In Messiah, all this was fulfilled and explained and expanded. Yehovah does not reject us for imperfectness, but rather makes us whole through Yeshua, who is the perfect priest and offering sacrifice. Leviticus 21 gives us a powerful picture of what it means to be set apart for service to Yehovah. The priests were held to be a higher standard, not because they were better than others, but because their lives were meant to be visible reflection of holiness of Elohim that they served. So the priest was supposed to reflect Elohim. They were supposed to manage their mourning. They're supposed to be identifying who they're supposed to be married to. Every detail pointed to the importance of being clean, holy, and reverence in his presence. Today, as a royal priesthood, through Yeshua, we reminded that our calling is no less serious. While we may not serve as at a physical altar, we're called to offer our lives as a living sacrifice, to reflect the purity, the integrity of the kingdom in everything that we do. Again, holiness is not legalism. It's the natural result of being in a covenant with a holy Elohim. And though the Levitical priesthood required physical perfection, we now see through the lens of the Messiah that Yehovah is after the whole heart, not the outward perfection, but inward transformation. Yeshua, our perfect high priest, restores the broken, heals the unclean, makes a way for all who are willing to walk in his footsteps, a way in. So let this chapter not just be history or all about the Aaron priesthood or anything like that, but it's actually an invitation to us all to remember who we are. We're chosen, we're holy, royal priesthood, called to proclaim his excellence. We have to walk in that identity with respect, reverence, and a deep gratitude that He even called us. What I'm encouraging you to do as you are just thinking about Leviticus 21, our study that we just completed, the question you should be asking yourself, am I living like one who's called to be holy? Just focus on this week as you continue through the week. Take one intentional step, just one, to honor Yehovah with greater reverence, whether in your words, your relationship, or worship. Keep in mind, we are set apart, a royal priesthood. So we live set apart. We walk worthy and we represent the kingdom. Now, I don't see any questions or comments that I need to address right now. That does not mean that you cannot send those questions and comments during the replay. I do respond to those. Do not leave out of here without hitting that subscribe button. And I encourage you to continue your studies even further. Join me on Saturday at 11 o'clock, no, at 10 o'clock a.m. for episode number, I think it's 11 of What You Should Teach. And then on Sunday, because Sunday, June the 8th, at sunset, actually sunset June 7th, all the way to June 8th, Sunday, is the Feast of Weeks. Some call it Pentecost, some call it Shavuot. So we will be having a teaching on Saturday at 10 and 12 on Sunday, double Sabbath. So spend the rest of the week to get ready and be prepared for those two Sabbath days. And again, join me next Tuesday for Leviticus chapter 22. As always, man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of Yehovah. Have a blessed rest of the week. And again, don't forget to join me this coming weekend for these double Sabbath. I appreciate you on today.